Shut up.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome to Beyond the Bell Live. I am Chris Page. It is a Sunday morning here in Florida, and I'm so glad to have so many people that will be joining us today. We've got a fantastic show. Before we dive in and get started, I do want to take a quick moment. Chapter 2, Next Level, went down a couple of weeks ago in Castleberry, Florida. It was a fantastic event. I've just finished editing it today, as a matter of fact, and we're going to look to premiere that on YouTube here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. And we are already, getting ready. We're prepping. Chapter 3, we're headed to Los Angeles, California. Our friends at Millennium Pro Wrestling and Primal Pro Wrestling partnering up with both of those individuals, those companies, to bring you Chapter 3 Good Vibrations. The main event has already been set. Best of 3 falls with 2 of the best tag teams in Southern California. It's the Pump Line, Antonio Rivers and Boa Silva. They're getting into the ring with the Brothers Divine, Brendan and Danny Divine. It is going to be happening, and from what I'm told, it's going to be the last time this ever happens. So you might want to make sure that you're there. We have also announced another qualifying match for our heavyweight championship tournament. Devious Cass, the young indie killer, is making a Southern California and his California debut, period, as he gets into the ring with Mr. 551 CJ Tino and Dallas Dash. I will be in his corner as he takes on Chuck Mercer. There is a lot happening with Chapter 3, and Chapter 4 is right behind it as Legends Rise on April the 25th. We will crown our first ever champion, heavyweight champion, and it is going to be a fantastic time. All tickets are on sale at ccppodcasting.com. You do not want to miss them. I'm telling you now, it's going to be fantastic. Over on X, I see you. Over on YouTube, how's it going? Twitch, what's up? We've got UK Paul, we've got Devil and Night, Shannon, I see you. We got a lot of people loading in. If you have questions for our guest today, please drop them in the chat. I will make sure that we get them worked in. And without any further ado, our guest today, it's funny how professional wrestling works and how life works in general. We had a fantastic chat with Fox out of Grapple Arcade literally not too long ago. And we've developed a relationship with Fox, and he was like, hey man, would you be interested in? And when he dropped the name, this gentleman's name, like my jaw dropped and I went, would I? Fuck and yes, can we make that happen? And it did. But not only is it happening today, here's how wild things get. Didn't realize that our guest today was coming to the States, and we had an opportunity to at least try to help and put the word out there to Florida and amongst some other places that he was here, and he's here for a month. Ladies and gentlemen, I had an opportunity to sit down and meet him last night, and it was an absolute honor and a pleasure of mine. And I'm thrilled to bring him here today. He goes by the Jacked Stacked Daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beyond the Bell, Mr. Shreddy. Shreddy, how are you, brother?
Shreddy is ready. I've been looking forward to this podcast, and I'm even representing, as we can see yesterday. So, been looking forward to this. Let's do it.
I am so excited to have you on the show today, brother. You have no idea. Just like I said, coming in, like wrestling is so funny, and how things happen and how people get brought together through really mutual friends, and our relationship started there. And I had no idea you were coming to Florida, but you're here. And again, like I said, I had the opportunity to see you last night, and to be able to work with you a little bit. And I was so excited, man. And I'm excited to have the conversation. The chat's loading in. Fight Pro Wrestling out of New Jersey's jumping in, saying what's up. Devil and Knight's throwing you some love. Off rip, Devil and Knight's from the UK, bruv. Better AEW debut segment last night than Big Stoke. So
nice.
Let's dive in, man, and start talking about professional wrestling first, because this is obviously what the channel's about. And for you, when do you fall in love with it? When does it cross your radar? What drew you in?
Yeah, so I've told this story countless times when I do podcasts and interviews. So there might be someone listening who's already heard this, but I'll kind of tell that story. Just before I jump into that, though, what you said about wrestling being funny and the kind of people that you meet and stuff like that, 100%. That's why I met my girlfriend Alice. She's back at home now. She's looking after our 6 cats over there. But I met, my girlfriend. We've been together now for 8 years or so, and that was through wrestling. Some of the best mates that I've got now in my life, I met as an adult through wrestling. And it's just funny how wrestling brings so many people from, different backgrounds together that otherwise we would never have met. but we all love this one thing, wrestling, and it brings us together. But to answer your question about when did I fall in love with wrestling, literally since before I could walk. I've got a big family. I'm one of 7 kids. So I've got 2 older brothers. I've got 3 older sisters and 1 younger sister. So one of 7. Both of my brothers are a lot older than me. They always watch wrestling. So from me being a little kid, I always remember WWF being on in the house, at home. I remember the big blue mats. I remember the big blue cage. That was kind of just on in the background. So I grew up with wrestling just always being on at home. So I knew some of, I knew Hogan, I knew Warrior, I knew Bret Hart, Undertaker. But when I became what I would consider like an active fan, I was probably around 7, 8 years old. Around 98, I think, was when I really started getting into wrestling and becoming an active fan. And then playing WWF Warzone on the PS1, and then WWF Attitude, and then the SmackDown games. Things just escalated from there. I remember getting the Warzone game, and that really kind of brought me fandom even more. And then it just escalated from there. And then a lot of the friends that I've got, when you go from primary school to high school, a lot of those friends dropped out of wrestling. It was like, oh, wrestling's not cool anymore. I'm too old to watch wrestling. It's a kiddie thing. It's fake, blah, blah, blah. I never grew out of it. I stuck through wrestling. I've never, ever phased out of wrestling. So, yeah, to answer the question in a shorter version, I've always had wrestling as part of my life.
It's funny that it comes in through video games. Like for me, the game that I always go to is No Mercy on I think it was
Okay, yeah.
the N64. Like for whatever
N64, yeah.
reason, that was the game-changing game in my genre when I grew up. It was like it didn't get better than that.
So No Mercy, as a kid, I didn't actually own it. I had an N64, but it was my brother's console. The PS1 was mine, and over in the UK, I don't know what it was like over in the US. I don't know how Sony or any game developers or publishers made money with the PS1, because every single person I knew at home had what was called a chipped PS1. So it was like a little chip you put in the PS1, and it allowed you to play pirated games and copied games and things like that. I did not know a kid that bought real PlayStation games. It was all just downloads and ROMs and things like that. So my kind of era as a kid was the PS1. So my go-to was the SmackDown games. I know No Mercy is not super popular. I played it when I was a teenager on an N64 emulator. But for me, it was the SmackDown games that really, I remember, like I say, going from Warzone to Attitude, and then from Attitude to SmackDown was such a big jump. I had a demo disc of SmackDown 1, and when I played that SmackDown demo disc, going back to Attitude was it was rough. There was months and months and months of just waiting for SmackDown to come out to be able to play that. But I also remember in the arcades, the old the WrestleMania arcade machine, and then the In Your House, which was like the Mortal Kombat style fighting game. So I played those as a kid as well. But yeah, the PlayStation games, the N64 games, whatever it is, you find there's so many people who become fans or bigger fans through the games.
Facts. I 100%. And it really, that's what kind of drives people. Like my day, I say back in my day, I was in the ring from 99 to 05. My run was not as lengthy as it should have been or it could have been, but it was what it was, and never thought in a million years that I would even be getting back into professional wrestling in some form or fashion. Yet here we are. But it started with me like through, the Crockett days. I was an old NWA guy. Grew up in the South, so it just kind of snowballed from there. But from your perspective, when you realize that this is something that you want to try and do, going through the process, especially overseas, and this is where I find like conversations with you guys so educational, because getting into professional wrestling and on any continent is a little bit different. It's not all the same. So when you decide that this was something that you really wanted to do and take that step, what was it? How was the navigating, getting into training, or figuring out even where to start? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was hard. So whenever someone asks me when I started wrestling, I always say it was when I was 26 years old. That's when I probably started wrestling training. But I actually tried wrestling when I was a teenager. So I was 14, 15 at the time. I was still in, obviously, high school. And just Googling. I used to be one of these kids that go on the forums and, read the dead sheets and stuff like that. But I was online just looking for like a wrestling school, and I found one that was in a town fairly close to where I live in the northeast of England. So my dad took me, and there was three of my mates, took us to this first training session. We did our first session. Then the next week, me and my mates, the same group, we got the bus through, did the training session, got the bus home. This was before mobile phones were common. I never got a mobile phone until I think I was like 16, 17 years old. I was 14, 15 when I was wrestling training. So after the second session, we came home. I got home after midnight on a Monday night, so it was a school night. I think my mum thought that I'd been kidnapped or murdered or something like that because I was home so late. And they just outright said, "You're not doing this anymore. You're not coming in this late." Like, that's it. So I literally had 2 training sessions, and my mum and dad put an end to it. And I always look back now, and I don't want to sound resentful for it, but I just look back, and because I've got like nephews and nieces, and I just think to myself, if I was in their position and I had, like one of my nephews or nieces had this passion, had this interest of, but no matter what it is, whether it was wrestling, football, boxing, any kind of sporting activity, entertainment, drama, act, whatever it is, me as their uncle, I'd encourage that, and I'd be like, well, I'll take you to the training, I'll help you, if this is something that you're really interested in. And it wasn't just a fad. I'd been into wrestling since I was a little kid. So I was very like, that was the end of wrestling. So then fast forward a few years, I was 21 years old. I was in university. Again, I found it was another training school, fairly local. It was about an hour and a half bus rides and walking and stuff like that. So I did that for a couple of months, and then the training school closed down. And I was like, that's it. I've tried wrestling, and the training school's closed down. I don't know anywhere else to go. Couldn't find anywhere online back then. And that was it. Fast forward to 2016, and there was a local show came to town. They put flyers on all the chairs, and there was like the followers on Facebook. We've got a training school, so I follow them on Facebook, watched the show. And then that same year, I applied to study for a PhD because I was trying to get into become like a lecturer. So I applied to start for a PhD, and I got rejected for that. So then I explored other opportunities of, well, how can I self-fund a PhD? How long does it take to do? And I was told it would take 7 years to do a PhD if you do one part-time alongside what I was working in. I don't know why. I just had that kind of moment. And I thought, I can put 7 years into doing a PhD to become a lecturer, or I could put 7 years into wrestling and see where that would take me. That same week, found the training school that I'd followed, drove up, started training, and then here we are, like 9 years later, been wrestling all that time.
It seems like that you made a damn good decision there because, like,
Yeah.
just as well as I do, it's difficult to really carve a name and make a name for yourself on the scene. Like, really, like maybe 1% of people who get involved in the profession can really get out there and make something happen. And you're in that 1% because you're not only locally in your area, you're world traveled, but you've done Japan. You're over here in the States now. So, and there's a lot of different facets that get you there. And I want to at least talk about this off rip. Like, brother, you're jacked and stacked. So taking care of your body is a big piece of it. When did you really start, or did that date back to, middle school or primary school? Were you always physically fit? Did you always take the physical side of, or the gym side of it?
No, so when I was a kid, I was not a sports fan at all. Wrestling, which I don't class wrestling as a sport, might piss some people off. Pro wrestling for me, it's entertainment. It's very athletic. It's very, there's sporting and athletic element to it, but it's not a legitimate sport in the sense of you're competing with someone. It's entertainment, sports entertainment. But that was the closest I came to being like a sports fan. As a kid, my two older brothers tried to push football, soccer onto me. The more they tried to push that onto me, the more I resisted. I just did not like it, did not enjoy it. So when I was a kid, I was a kid just playing computer games. That was my big hobby, watching wrestling, playing computer games, watching cartoons, collecting Pokemon cards, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I was like a teenager, kind of in high school, that I wanted to look like a wrestler because I grew up watching wrestling. I don't know, maybe 15 at the time, 16. And I wanted to look like a wrestler. So that's what got me into weightlifting. The school that I went to had like a weight room. So I started getting into lifting weights like as a teenager while I was still in school. While other kids would be going playing football or doing gymnastics or sprinting or whatever it was, I would go to the gym and I would do the weightlifting side of things. And then fast forward a few years, as I'm looking to learn how to build muscle, how to, lose fat, what to eat, the rest of training routines, I kind of fell into the bodybuilding aspect of things in the bodybuilding world. So from a young age, I was quite disciplined with my diet. And then because I was putting so much time and effort into prioritizing gym workouts, diet, etc., I just kind of fell into bodybuilding and the bodybuilding culture. And I thought, I put all this time and effort into, I'm making all these sacrifices and restrictions in my life. Like I stopped drinking alcohol when I was 19 years old, stopped partying and all that kind of stuff. Whereas most people in the UK, 18 is the legal age to drink. So that's when people start going out partying. By the age of 19, I stopped it all. I just kind of put my efforts into weightlifting. So then when I was 22 years old, I thought, right, I want to see what I can do on the competitive side of bodybuilding, and then started doing competing in bodybuilding. And fast forward to when I started wrestling, I kind of came into wrestling with a physique. And I think sometimes that obviously helps, but sometimes can hinder me as well. I think some people who maybe don't know me, they'll just see bodybuilder, not a wrestling fan, and they'll just think like, oh, he's trying to cash in on the physique he's got. Whereas the only reason I had this conversation with Chris Masters when he was over in the UK, he was in a very similar position to me. He was a lifelong wrestling fan. Shawn Michaels was his guy. He started lifting weights to look like a wrestler. And I think people just have that misconception of he's a bodybuilder, just wanting to cash in on wrestling, wanting to cash in off his look. Whereas it's actually the other way around. We're that big of a wrestling fan. We want to become wrestlers. We want to look like wrestlers. So we go to the gym and we start, working out and looking the way we do. And then that just carries over with us.
Well, it's a big piece, man. It's as a fan, anybody who watches you when they see you come out through that curtain, like it's a different level. It's a different game. Like it's like shit got real. It's just you have presence is what I'm trying to say. I guess is the word I'm trying to use. Like the presence is there.
I agree. I agree with that. I think in the UK even more so, but I think also people make the misconception about me that because I look the way that I do, people expect me to think all wrestlers should look like me, but that's not the case. Wrestling is a variety show. If everybody looked like me, I wouldn't stand out. But I think that everyone should have some kind of presence, like what you just said there, presence. Whether that presence is, you can be an out of shape guy, but if you've got a character and you've got the correct gear and the correct attire, and you can kind of have a presence and a good look, you don't need to be, the guy with big muscles and ripped. Likewise, you could be a cruiserweight, someone who's like so smaller, but at least look athletic. You don't just want to look skinny fatter than have, poor gear, low quality gear. It just looks very amateurish. But in terms of the physique side of things, having the variety is a necessity in wrestling. You don't want everybody looking like a bodybuilder. You don't want everybody being 400 pounds fat. You don't want everybody to be skinny in a cruiserweight. You need that little bit of variety. But that being said, my look plays into the character, plays into the Shreddy, the Jack Sack Daddy persona. And as you just mentioned there, when I walk out behind the curtain, it's instantly, there's an impression there and there's some kind of presence. That coupled with kind of my wrestling persona just helps me stand out a little bit.
Well, let's talk about the persona a little bit, and then we'll get into like some of the traveling and stuff that you've done. When you're putting the package together for what we see on television or YouTube or wherever our audience is consuming wrestling product, when you put this package together and the presentation, were there any trials and errors or
yeah, definitely.
Well, let's talk about them to get to what we see today.
Yeah, so when I started wrestling, the training school, so there's a wrestler in the UK called Rampage Brown. He was signed before NXT was a thing back in the FCW days. So he has like a wealth of experience. He's been around for well over 20 years. Well over 20 years in the business. British wrestler, moved over to America when he got signed. Started training with him. And then when I was in the training school, there was another wrestler there called Rory Coyle, guy on the UK scene. Mm-hmm. He was a bit more established than me. He'd been wrestling for a few years when I first started. I used to do YouTube videos. Well, I still do YouTube videos, but I used to do YouTube videos before I got into wrestling about like bodybuilding, fitness, that kind of stuff. But the way that I approached those videos were a persona. So I made the name Shreddy Brick. That was the YouTube channel. Still got the channel now. But I presented my videos almost like I was a character, like a wrestling persona. Anyway, Rory had seen my YouTube videos, just someone came across them. He thought, oh, this guy can like talk. So then that became the wrestler. Like as I was training, that became the character and the persona. So I did that for a little bit, and then I remember when COVID happened and lockdown happened, I was kind of on the Xbox with, like a lot of my wrestling friends. There was a guy called Dragon Izu who booked What Culture Pro Wrestling. I don't know if you remember that from a number of years ago. So I was on the Xbox on the headset with, some of these guys who were really, really experienced and knowledgeable within wrestling. And then we were just trying to come up with like ways to not necessarily reinvent myself, but take me to the next level. And then it was just a combination of, nights of conversations while we were playing games on the Xbox, ideas, that kind of the Jack Stack Daddy Shreddy kind of character came from that. Then lockdown finished, the shows came back, debuted that. I was obviously training before coming on the shows, but then started debuting that persona, and it just kind of took off, and it worked, and it's got me to where I am now. But even along the way, there's things that I might try, whether it's in ring sequences, spots, moves, catchphrases, promo style, delivery, whatever it might be. There's always little things that you're tweaking and you come up with different ideas and things like that. So it's a process of, if I was the same performer now, or doing the exact same thing as what I was doing 5 years ago, I'm not evolved. So it's always trying to, and there might be something that's got me to this level, and then actually to get to the next level, we need to scrap that and we need to move on. And that's little things that I've done along the way as well.
Yeah, the adaptation is key, and being able to adapt with the times and adapt with the changes. I love the moniker and the presentation that we see right now because it fits. It's so you, and we've seen and watched you since we started diving into the independent scene hardcore, and that's been over the last couple of years. And whether it's just been like random one-off matches or something like that, like there's misconceptions when it comes to the bigger jacked guys that they're going to be all power and it's going to be a powerhouse situation. But you have some cards up your sleeve that as far as on a technique side for a bigger guy that is very impressive as well. And I want to ask you, like, do you incorporate some of your match stuff? Like I'll call it like last night, really broke out a gator roll in within the opening of the match. Like nobody would have expected that. I didn't expect that, right? So when you work in your technique, do you have any kind of tricks that you pull or that you try to, when I say tricks, I don't mean like, magicians and what have you. I'm talking about like little tropes that you use to work in with your psychology to get away from, being looked at or boxed in as a big, burly badass. It also can get in here and wrestle.
Yes, yeah. So going back to what the last question as well, this is kind of a good extension of that. So when I started wrestling, I went through a string of every single match I had, every single opponent, no matter what the show was, they always wanted to do, let's do a test of strength spot. Okay, let's do the test. And when I first started wrestling, I was, that's good because it's getting me into shows and it's the starting point. But then when every single match is tie up, push me off, tie will push me off again, I'll get pissed off. I'll call for a test of strength. I'm going to gut you. You overpower me. It's like, this is just, it's so simple, so basic. Like, I, as a performer, wanted to do more. When I first started, before I got into shows, when I was just training, I did not want to be a body guy. I had the physique, but I remember talking to Rampage Brown and I said, I do not want my gimmick to be just the body guy because I didn't want to fall into that. I didn't just want to be perceived as, because of his in-ring limitations. I didn't want to fall into that that same rabbit hole, if you like, of, oh, well, Shreddy looks the part, but he can't work, he can't wrestle. So I wanted to break away from just the basic big man or body guy stuff like the tests of strengths and things like that. So it's just a combination of training, watching guys. When I'm doing tape study, it's normally guys from once Steiner came from an amateur wrestling background, which I don't have, but he became super jacked. But he had that kind of wrestling pedigree, legitimate amateur wrestling pedigree. So for me, it's a case of what can I do, as you say there, that people wouldn't expect to see. That's a combination of trying to do some technical wrestling little bits. I'm not a high flyer, very, very rarely, if ever, where it's I don't just come out and people have, oh, well, Shreddy's a body guy, so he does X, Y, and Z. I want to do A, B, and C along the way as well. Say I've got the contest. What are we trying to do? We're trying to beat our opponent to get paid. If I've got an opportunity to put a hold on or to do some kind of technique that's going to out wrestle my opponent, why would I not do that?
Facts, 100%. I think that it's an interesting facet to the game. And when you say Scott Steiner, brother, I just got to see a Steiner screwdriver at some point. I need to see it. I think I saw that clip. I think I
Yeah, yeah,
saw it.
yeah,
I think I saw the
yeah,
clip, brother. That's intense in every sense of the word. What
yeah,
something that I do want to now. There's stuff that's coming up as you're out here in the States. You had an opportunity with AEW over the weekend or last
yeah.
night. Start doing some things. How do those opportunities come your way? What did you do to get into this position? Like, for me, we talked to so many different guys from they could be top names to underneath guys and to really position yourself as this force that's on the scene right now.
So I'll give you the very, very top level answer. And if you want me to go into more detail after that, more than happy to do so. Exactly what you just said there, where there's so many guys that say, I want to get out there, I want to travel, I want to do this, I want to do that. I said that, so then I actually did it. I started contacting the places I wanted to work, the promotions I wanted to work, the countries I wanted to go to. I started doing that outreach. So I come from like career kind of established. So I just brought some of those kind of like real world life skills. I already had them. So it's like in more, you can bitch, moan and complain about it, realize you're not happy, and then think, what do I need to do to change the position I'm in? That's normally applying for the jobs, maybe it's going and getting some qualifications, training, pursuing some kind of career or a career change, whatever it might be. I took that same approach with from the email addresses, spoke to some of the guys that I know who'd been out in Japan, tried to get contact information. Just asked them, like, what was your approach? How did you do that? Sent emails off, and then I got responses back. And then it just kind of went from there. I think so many guys, not just in wrestling, but I think in life in general, people say, I want to do X, I want to do Y, I want to do Z. They talk about it, but they never do anything. Just think to yourself, like, if I'm saying I want to do this, what's the steps, what's the road path to get there, and start doing that. If you never get there, but you try, and at least along the way, you've hopefully enjoyed the journey, you've had some good experiences, you've done some cool stuff, your life's gone in a direction where that makes you a little bit happier. If you just talk about, I want this, I want that, whatever, and you don't act on it, nothing's ever going to change.
I really feel that because our platform, I really look at it as the same way. Is like I think that we're doing some stuff that's a little bit different. I don't know if there are other platforms out there that are as small as we are when it comes to like the bigger picture and among millions and millions of people that are out here trying to make a difference and put on our own wrestling events and use a lot of local talent and partner with companies that we have really good relationships with to get opportunities for anybody. And I say that because like, you and I talked a little bit last night about trying to come back over to the States and do some other stuff, like maybe up north and, out in
Yeah,
on the West Coast. Like there's a lot of different options and there's a lot of different companies that I would love the opportunity to just say, hey guys, you need to talk to Shreddy. You need to get him out here and make some things happen and do some things. And if I didn't believe or bet on myself, like we would not be here. It would have
yeah,
it have stopped. What started as, three streams a week is now almost 7 days a week. And we're
yeah,
educating ourselves and learning about so many different pieces of talent all over the world that for me are the future of what I love, and that's professional
yeah,
wrestling. I want the best for all the people, all the men and women out there that lace them up to entertain us because this is entertainment, and there's a
yeah, yeah,
toll that comes along with that, and that's something that people don't really see a lot of. And some of that comes with styles and styles clashes. When you start doing some of this international stuff, like Japan as an example, was there a styles clash there, or as you're traveling, even here to the States, you've already done some stuff out here. Was from the European style to these other styles? What is that clash, and how do you adapt to whatever local market that you're playing to at that time?
I remember in Japan, it was before I'd done one show. No, I think I did a few dojo sessions through the week, and then it was my first show was that weekend. I remember we were just running through we were doing the roll drills and stuff in training. Then we were doing hip tosses. So in the UK, I've always been in a reputable school. You get taught when you're doing a flip bump off one foot, to the point where when I started training, Rampage Brown's my main trainer. Marty Jones, who trained William Regal and got William Regal into the business, was one of my trainers. John Moss, one of my trainers. He's now one of the head coaches at NXT. We would learn a flip bump off one foot, whether that's just doing a flip bump drill, whether you're taking a hip toss, always off one foot. I remember going to Japan and coming off one foot, the class stopped and they were like 2 feet. Over in the UK, if you flip bump off 2 feet, the class stops and you get drilled out of you right there, and then you come off on 1 foot. And I remember thinking, like, this is such a bizarre situation because it was the reverse situation. I was doing what I'd been taught, 1 footed flip bump. The class was literally being stopped. They wanted me to come off 2 feet, and I was kind of savvy enough to realize, like, I'm in another country, I'm in another style. I'll adapt to what they want. So, I'm their guest. So it's like, you do what they want to do. So that was definitely something where I was like, right, like there's not necessarily just one right way of doing something in wrestling. There's multiple ways for different audiences, different styles, different cultures. And that was really an eye-opening experience for me. In Japan as well, obviously, like the crowd is very different. The style is less of the American sports entertainment style. The crowd's a lot quieter in general for the match. Rather than me coming over to Japan and trying to be a Japanese wrestler, because they've got hundreds, if not thousands, of Japanese wrestlers in Japan, I was coming over. I was the attraction there. I was something different. So I came over and I got my Ready, Shreddy, Go, the Who's the Daddy, the Jackson, all of the crowd work stuff that I would do. I continued doing that. I had to change it slightly to obviously adjust for the being able to understand what I'm saying. When I would say some of the show out stuff, I'd, maybe be a bit more, put more emphasis on like maybe slapping my chest or slapping my arm or just to make that noise so the crowd could kind of get into that. But I tried to incorporate a lot of the showmanship into my act and into my stuff in Japan because that helped me stand out against all of the other Japanese wrestlers. Because if I was coming over just to be a Japanese wrestler, they can go and pick 1,000 other guys to do that. There's no need to bring me over for that. So that was definitely something that I learned in Japan, and there was a big difference there. In America, there's not really been much of a change. You've got the odd thing of like, I might call a move or a sequence or a spot one thing in the UK. There might be a different name for it in America. But I've only had a couple of matches so far, so I've probably not had enough experience wrestling in America yet to kind of see if there is much of a change there yet. But I think the American style, the British style, from what I've seen so far, it's WWE style, isn't it? So I think a lot of people are familiar with that.
Real quick, I want to go over to chat. Miles Smith had dropped a message in earlier, said that Shreddy was on the first ever show that he attended as a fan. And
Okay.
It was over in the UK.
What was the show?
Miles,
what was the show?
If you're in chat, if you can remember the show, drop it, and I'll circle back around to it in just a second. I also want to say we've got Alice Waterhouse is we were talking about.
That's my Alice.
We're talking about
that's my Alice.
Is it? We're talking about the body earlier. He is the most wrestler-looking wrestler. So that came. There we go. Devil and Knight also says when we were talking a little bit about some opponents, Shreddy versus Dijak would feed many. That would be an impressive battle. And Miles did answer back. Soft Pro, heavy as the head. That was the show.
Yeah.
So he saw you there for the first time, and Miles is one of our guys who we have a show on Sundays at 3:00. It's Wrestling Request Live. Is always he's based over in the UK. Is always putting in stuff from Europe for us to take a look at on a weekly basis. He is a very instrumental.
The Soft Pro show, I'll just quickly go on a tangent there. So that Soft Pro show was meant to be a triple threat match, including Scotty 2 Hottie. The match got changed to just a singles. Scotty couldn't do the event. The day before my debut with Soft Pro, I got injured. So the first time I was at Soft Pro, I just cut a promo because I literally broke my shoulder the night before. So yeah, Soft Pro, that was my very first time there. the show that Mars mentioned there, Heavy as the Head, I can't remember what the exact card was, but I wrestled like a multi-man there. I've done a few bits at Soft Pro over the years, so no, that's good to hear.
UK Paul does have a question for you. It says, when you wrestle in the UK, do you still get "you're a cereal" chanted at you?
No, that's so. I've not had the cereals. So I actually saw Shreddy Break. Came from over in the UK. There's a cereal called Ready Break, and then when I named my YouTube channel, I named it Shreddy Break because I used to eat a lot of Ready Break. And I was making the YouTube channel because I was getting into bodybuilding. So I was like, oh, I'll call it. It just was like, I'll call it Shreddy Break because I'm shredded. I'm teaching people how to get shredded. So there's been some serial chants over the years. I incorporated that into the early days. So that, going back to the question earlier, when you said about like how have you changed and what trials, tribulations, what change have you made on the way? So I used to build my working name was Shreddy Break. Then over the years, I dropped the Break and I'm just Shreddy now because I think some promoters weren't too keen on like, well, your name sounds like breakfast cereal. So again, kind of that got me to a certain level. And I just dropped that part of the name and then just used the Shreddy. So no, that doesn't happen much now. But I did use the moniker at one point as the cereal thriller. Cereal being the breakfast cereal. So yeah.
There's a lot of little matches that are being popped in for you and Chad. One of them is Shreddy versus Mecca. That's from Goth, who's over in the Netherlands. Miles pops in. Shreddy versus Big T would be another one. We got to get out of don't stop boxing, man. It's the big guy. Shreddy can go, guys. He can go. I know that the dream matches is always big man versus big man because that just seems to be the way that a lot of people are driven. But I just like to see the different styles and different clashes and see how things work and how things roll.
If people want to check out some of the better big man versus big man matches that I've done, I would recommend head on to YouTube and search for the company, the promotion. It's called Wrestling in Newcastle. I've wrestled Rampage Brown. That's there for free on their YouTube channel. So Rampage Brown, for anyone who doesn't know, as I mentioned earlier, he was my coach. He is probably the most well-respected wrestler in the UK of the past 10 years, respected by the talent in the UK, respected by signed talent and contracted talent, where they will say in interviews, if you're in the UK, go and train with Rampage Brown. That's how respected he is within the business and within other talent and other workers. So go and check out Shreddy Rampage Brown Wrestling in Newcastle. I actually have a show coming up with him when I get back from Japan next month. My first match back in the UK is me versus Rampage Brown, March 28th, I think it is, at Wrestling in Newcastle. We've got a rematch coming up there as well. But there is a match already on YouTube with that.
We're definitely going to check that one out for sure. When you say Rampage Brown, I meant to touch on this earlier. I see a lot of Rampage when we do stuff with North Wrestling. Like they let us watch their shows and stream their shows out, and we just have an arrangement work together, and I'm able to catch up with a lot of Rampage there. And that this guy is another guy. Like again, over the last couple of years, we've really been able to take a peek at and look deeper at, because a lot of our UK fans will send in matches and just send in stuff from Rampage, and he is fucking hella talented. Excuse my language, but he is like legit. I think he's a pillar. Would you consider him a pillar on the UK scene?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, there's so many guys like signed talent in the top companies now that will go on in podcasts, they go on interviews, they tell people go and train with Rampage. So it's like you've got Tom Latimer, and former NWA champion, currently in NWA still. He's one of Rampage's biggest advocates. Nick Aldis, current GM of SmackDown, he's one of Rampage's biggest advocates. He was signed before NXT was a thing, signed FCW, came back over to the UK, being like one of the main talents in the UK and on the UK scene. But then from a coaching perspective, arguably has left an even bigger print from a coaching perspective than an in-ring perspective. And that's not to discredit his in-ring career at all. He was on NXT UK. They were trying to get him. He signed with World of Sport. World of Sport finished. NXT UK then finally did sign him. He was one of the main guys in NXT UK. Wrestled Gunther it was the WrestleMania weekend of shows. Wrestled Gunther on NXT UK. I think it was like the Friday before the WrestleMania, Saturday, and then the Sunday kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely one of the pillars. What you mentioned about North Wrestling as well. So North Wrestling is where I think I debuted at North Wrestling back in 2017. Before I could wrestle, before I could put matches on, I was training. But going back to what I mentioned there, Rory Coyle saw me, he was, oh, this guy can talk. That led to me getting on North Wrestling as a character. And North Wrestling is kind of what gave me my foot in the door to get onto shows. And then I've been a regular at North Wrestling all the way from 2017 up until I've done the past year, 2 years, going to Japan, coming back. I've had little bits of time out, but North Wrestling gave me the opportunity to work Mao, who's one of the top guys in DDT in Japan. They gave me the opportunity to work Scotty 2 Hottie. He gave me the opportunity to work Paul London. About half a year ago in July, I got to wrestle Paul London there. I got to wrestle Warhorse at North Wrestling. I wrestled Joe Hendry. I did a program. Joe Hendry came to the promotion. I was one of the regular guys there. Got to work a full program, an angle, had a match with Joe Hendry. Obviously, before he went on to get signed and everything like that. So North Wrestling, I've got to dress up as Darth Vader at North Wrestling and do a Star Wars spot there. So North Wrestling, one of the local promotions to me, based up in the northeast of England, they've been really good to me over the years. Great opponents, great matches, great chance to develop character. They put out really good stories, like video packages, hype packages, promos, segments, and things like that. I was on one of their shows again. I wrestled Paul London. I think I missed 1 or 2 shows. Then I wrestled at a week. That was the last show that they had in 2025. Wrestled on the weekend of shows there, and then we'll see what the future holds there.
I am big fans of I'm big fans of North and Progress. We've got a good relationship with them too. We've got a good relationship with Slam Masters, and we're getting honed in with Pro Wrestling Holland now. We're trying to work in and do some stuff with them. Like ultimately, my goal is to come over there and do a loop of shows and bring 6 or 7 people from the States, and obviously partner with companies out that way, and North is on that list, and some talks.
It's one of those shows as well where you look at the card and quite often they do use imports. I've just mentioned some of the names I've wrestled there.
Yeah.
Warhorse, Mao, Scotty 2 Hottie, Paul London. They've got they've had Manders on a few times. I'm trying to think who else is kind of a regular import there. Off the top of my head, I can't think of them, but yeah, Speedball Mike Bailey has been used a few times there. Vida Scott does commentary for North Wrestling. So yeah, North is a really one of those shows where they bring these imports in. They get to put the UK spotlight on them, but it also helps the UK talent out as well. Like me getting to wrestle Mao, Warhorse, Scotty, Paul London. That does wonders for my profile.
Absolutely. And that's kind of like what that's kind of the vision of what our live events are. Like we just started, we just did our second. I'm working on our third. We've got 10 scheduled this month, and there's some more that we're looking at for 2027. But a big piece of it is to partner with our international friends and be able to cross some stuff off some bucket lists, not only for people we know, but fans in those markets as well. Because I think that keeping stuff fresh and being able to bring in talent that are not familiar. Like again, I want to go back to like last night for just a second. Like nobody in Castleberry, Florida knew who Shreddy was before he walked out of that curtain. Everybody in Castleberry, Florida knew who Shreddy was the moment he walked out of that curtain and the moment he walked back through that curtain. So like it's just like
what was interesting last night, Jevon Evans from NXT WWE, he was there, met him briefly backstage, and then he was out in the crowd watching my match. Asked him for feedback on the match. I had a good conversation with him. Then I was just round the ring at the end of the show, and Jevon was speaking to the promoter. I was on my phone, and I heard Jevon. I don't know what the question was, but I just heard Jevon say, "Oh, the who's the daddy guy?" I looked up because I thought, "Hey." I looked up. He said, "Oh, the guy from the UK." He said that was really good, and I was like, "Fuck, that's like Jevon Evans." He just wrestled that scene as last match show, and it was like, there's a guy who is made it. For me, he's made it. He's signed contract. He's on, SmackDown. He's made it. He's living the dream. He doesn't know who I am. Met me for the first time last night. Saw one match of mine, and he referred to me as who's the daddy guy. So that little bit, like, I was able to make some kind of lasting impression that hopefully, like for me doing that and having that part of my persona, showmanship, crowd work, that will stick with people more than any move I could do. I'm not someone who can do a 450 or, somersault backflips and that kind of stuff. Yes, I could go and do the standing screwdriver, power slams, whatever it might be. But me having that little, who's the daddy? Are you ready for Shreddy? With the adrenaline going, with the full performance going, the full showmanship going, that is going to make me way more memorable than any move I could do in the ring.
Absolutely, and I think that that's where I was going with that, is that not everybody has that talent or that ability, and it's a rough thing to talk about, but not everybody has that. You do, and it's not just like I really want to see your match from Alabama too. Like if there's tape out there, like I just want to see the reaction. I know that when you come in and you
So
travel,
I don't think the stream live, but the film 2 TV tapings, YouTube tapings.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure it got on a Tuesday. They said so. It was Diamond Championship Wrestling. Scott Armstrong is involved there, so you can check that out. I believe that my match will air on Tuesday on their YouTube channel. And the crowd. So Scott Armstrong produced the finish to the match. The feedback we got from after that match was exactly what he wanted to do. He envisioned, I don't want to spoil the result
no.
for those who haven't watched it. He envisioned, though, he laid out the plan, the home stretch and the finish of the match. The feedback he gave me after that was what he envisioned we brought to life. So yeah, do check that out. Diamond Championship Wrestling, that'll be on. I believe it's Tuesday, but yeah, there will be airing that on their YouTube channel.
Well, I really like that that attribute, because, like I said, it's just one of those things that, like, nobody will know who you are when you're doing this stuff internationally, but everybody knows who you are when you leave, and that is
Yeah,
something that is not to be looked past by any means, because it is a big facet. It is being memorable and creating that connection. And you're correct. Nobody expected Jevon Evans to pop up last night. Nobody.
yeah,
That was a complete surprise. I talked to the promoter after the show. Obviously, like, I have a really good relationship with him. I wanted to make sure he was okay with everything. And last night was the first time that we were able to kind of use our platform for what it's intended to, and that is to, hey, we have this connection, you have this show, let's
bring it
bring him
together.
in, and let's see what this looks like and see what we can do here. I to have him pop in there on that night, last night, was really phenomenal. I got to say hello to him myself and kind of got a little starstruck. I don't happen often, but I was like, that is motherfucking
Yeah,
Jevon
yeah,
Evans. And it was a hell of a guy. I asked him about you last night before I left. So what you think about Shreddy? And he was like, Shreddy's the Jack guy. Yeah, it's Jack Daddy. And this was right
yeah.
before I left last night. And, very similar to what he had said to Charlie, what you overheard. He, thought the world of what he saw, and that there's
I
definitely.
didn't know that. I didn't know that you had that conversation with him, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, no, it was just fantastic to see, and to have that kind of reinforcement too. It really goes a long way, because this is somebody who is signed. This is somebody who is doing what they're looking for. And obviously you see something there is something there.
I think when you hear that kind of feedback from guys who are in a position that you want to be in, it makes the world a difference. You could have a guy who's wrestled for 15 years, never wrestled outside of the local town or the local area, have not really accomplished anything. That feedback can only carry so much weight when there's been no accomplishment there. You can take a guy like Jevon, who is young. He's a lot younger than me. I don't know how long he's been wrestling for, but I would imagine he started really young. But to get feedback from someone of his level, his experience, the guys that he's been coached by, trained by, the guys he's now currently working, that's the kind of feedback that any wrestler should be seeking out, no matter what indie show you're on, what show you're on. You want to get out, you want to ask for feedback from the experienced guys in the locker room. You don't want to ask for feedback from your friends, because your friends are going to tell you, oh yeah, it was good. And then you get this ego and you think everything you're doing is good. When you want feedback, you want to know, what am I not good at? Where do I need to improve? Because the things that you're good at, just continue doing that. But everyone can be improving. Everyone can be getting better at something. So you want to get that feedback from the experienced guys, the guys who've done something, so you can always be improving what you're doing. I would recommend every single wrestler be doing that.
I agree. I get that a lot, especially as our platform grows this has really turned in from 0 views 2 years ago to almost 1 million on our social medias alone. So I get constant DMs from guys all over the world. Hey, can you watch this? Can you watch this? Can you watch this? And I always tell them the same thing. I do not mind
Yeah.
watching it. You just need to preface because we're a live platform. Do you want me to watch it live and react to it, or do you want me to watch it privately and critique it? And I always
Yeah.
give them the out because I can critique it, but I'm not the easiest because I look at things from a different lens. I look at it from the wrestler side of the equation, but also the last 20 years I've been a fan, so I look at it from the
Yeah.
fan side of the equation as well. So I 100% get it, and some people are not, can deal with criticism. I have an example where I was watching a guy. It was his second or third match, and it was about a 9-10 minute match. It wasn't long, but there was just opportunities that he had. He was a heel, and I was like, man, why didn't you go after the crowd there? Like, there's dull spots where you have opportunity. Like, the crowd's booing you, but you're not engaging them. Like, you had 30 seconds that you could have done something to make an impact, like stuff like that. Like, I get it 100%. He didn't really like that. He was like, well, and I was like, well, hey, man, it's what I thought. It's what I
Don't
think.
ask for feedback. If you want to be if you want smoke blown up your ass, if you want to be told how good you are, ask your friends. If you want actual feedback and if you want to get better, you seek out the wrestlers on that show who have achieved something and more experience than you, because they're going to give you the feedback that you need to get better.
Facts. Over in chat, got a couple more questions from Miles. The funniest wrestling match that you have ever been involved in?
Funny, right. So one that jumps out to me straight away. Well, actually, a couple from Japan. So I can't remember the guy's name, but he does a policeman gimmick. If I heard the name, I would know it. But when I was in Japan, there's a guy with the policeman gimmick. I think he went viral for pulling the gun out on a show.
I know what you're talking about now. I don't know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
To give me that spot when I was over there, so I pulled the gun out. That was ridiculous. I've never seen the proper footage back of it, and I want to subscribe to the Big Japan Core service because I want to go back and watch all the footage. I've just never gotten around to it yet. That immediately jumps out as one of the funniest things I've done, funniest matches that I've done, because it's just ridiculous. Again, going back to what you mentioned there with the difference in cultures and styles, I don't think that would get over in front of a British crowd. It's too. Depending on the show, if you went to like a super indie show where it's all adults, they're all, the hardcore fans, then yes. But like that, I don't think that spot would get over to your typical British crowds. Possibly not to your typical American. You have to be super, super like indie fan to get that. But as a wrestler, that was just ridiculous and funny. There was also another match in Japan where there's a guy, loads of tenure in Big Japan, called Kobayashi. He's one of the deathmatch guys. But we did a tag match, not a deathmatch, just a regular match. That was ridiculous because you had Kobayashi, who's Japanese. You had me, who is UK. Then you had a New Zealand guy. Kobayashi always wears bandanas. So we came out, it was my idea, to be billed. He had like an American bandana. So we were billed as Team Fake US. We were billed as like Team USA, but it was 3 guys who weren't from America. That was a 6-man tag match. There was a ridiculous spot in there with like a bull rope, and we were all kind of being ragged up and down with that. That's another moment that stands out for me. There was a show that I did on me, a vlog that I did on my YouTube channel about, again, this was from Big Japan. It was like a tag match, but then there was guys coming in like a Royal Rumble kind of setting, and there were just more guys that would come in. I came out with a little bow tie on to Freddie Mercury's We Will Rock You, doing a ridiculous entrance, getting in the ring. That was just, again, one of those moments where it was ridiculous. But as the show escalated, as that one match escalated, there was fireworks involved, like legitimate fireworks involved. There was a bonfire. There was a guy, one of the older Japanese guys, who came out with a bucket of horse crap. And I mean, when I say horse crap, there was a horse on site. He got horse crap, poured it over his head and rubbed it all over him. It was just ridiculous. So I think like funniest matches would have to be those experiences in Japan. I don't think a lot of it would get over outside of Japan. But I just remember being a part of that and thinking like how ridiculous some of those setups were.
I don't know about a bucket of horse manure. I think I'm okay there. I think
I
I'm.
actually said it was like I remember talking about that spot, and I just thought like that was something where even me as a worker, I looked at that and I'm a big Jim Cornette fan. I think like 99% of what Jim Cornette says, I would agree with. But 100% if Jim Cornette saw me on that show in that match, he would write me off as outlaw wood show bullshit.
I mean, you get red ass Cornette with that
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
You know,
And I think I called that the thumbnail for clickbait and stuff. I think I just put it outlaw bullshit or outlaw mud show bullshit or something like that. I put on it, and it's like it was again though one of those things where look, I'm a guest, I'm in their company, their promotion, so I'll kind of do what's being asked of me. Anything I do on any show, I always try and it sounds cliche, but I've heard it so many times over the years from names, guys who work for WWE and podcast interviews. You get given something to do, you do that to the best of your ability. AEW just gone. I did a backstage pre-tape segment where it aired last night on Collision. So I'm there with Jamie Hayter, Alex Windsor. My role is to be like the drunken guy at the bar who's kind of like hitting on these girls. Oh, girls want a drink. They smash me head, they bottle me. There'd be so many wrestlers who'd be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get laid out. I don't want to get bottled. For me, it's like, right, this is my spot. Like, they're asking me to do this. I want to do this to the best of my ability, no matter what the spot is. You want it at the end of the day, it's entertainment. If you were being cast for a TV show, a movie, a play, a theatre, whatever it is, that's a role. You want to perform that role to what the director or the producer wants from you. And that's kind of my approach with every aspect of wrestling. It might not be something that you would book personally, but the job as a wrestler is not that. It's to bring the vision to life of whoever is paying you to perform.
Well, in the case of AEW, man, that's an opportunity. That's camera time. That's
100%.
screen time.
100%. 100%.
That's what that is.
I love this. I absolutely love. I love that segment I did. The feedback I got was really good from it. I feel confident coming out of that. That made more of an impression than anything else. Unless I got an actual match in the ring, what I did left more of an impression on any other spot. Like there was a security pull apart spot. Yeah, I could have ran down with the security shirt on and just got between. I think it was Kenny Omega and there was a pull. I can't remember. It was Kenny Omega. It might have been Andrade. Yeah, I could have came in and done the pull apart. There's nothing massively memorable about that. Again, though, you're performing that role of security. You want to do the best of your ability there. But that segment for me this week was an opportunity for me to kind of show, like, I got how many extras get to talk on a show, whether it's WWE or AEW. So for me, it was like, this is a moment to make a lasting impression. The feedback I got was really good. So I left that show thinking, like, that was a massive win. And that was the first thing I did on this America tour. So that started the tour off with, like, right, I left buzzing. I felt like I've done a really good job there. And you never know what that might lead to down the line.
Oh, absolutely, because that's the name of the game. It's like I tell everybody who comes in who does do extra work with AEW or the WWE, you're there. Your face is there. You're being seen by the people that you need to be seen by, regardless if you're used or not. You are there, and I've never had that opportunity. I've been afforded that opportunity. I worked many WWE events back in my younger years while I was wrestling with security and stuff like that, with buildings. So it's not the WWE itself, but the buildings that they would go to.
Yeah.
So I've seen the process. I've seen the TV days. I've seen what it looks like. I've been around. I've been 6 feet from Vince McMahon on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
So it is a different level and it's a different ball game. And some of the guys get frustrated. Well, I didn't get used. No, you were there. And that's the most key piece. And in your situation, like the segment last night, I would rather be involved in a smaller segment with less people than be involved in a pull apart with more people. Because again, at the end of the day, this is about your camera time. You're getting camera time, and it's isolated, right? To 3 versus maybe 8 or 9. What do you think is going to stand out more?
100%. That's so, like, the feedback I've got from social media already is insane. There'll be millions or hundreds of thousands of AEW fans who watch that segment and they don't remember me. I know for a fact there's a dozen people backstage at AEW who remember me because of that segment now, because they came up to me and spoke to me at the taping. So I played my role. The segment I did, the spotlight wasn't for me. The spotlight was on Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor. That segment was to establish their team name. It wasn't about getting me on camera. I played a role to help them establish their characters, their persona, their team name. There'll be UK fans who know me and they're popping because Shreddy's on AEW. There'll be AEW fans who've never heard of me. They watch that segment, they don't give me a second thought, and that's fine. I've done my job. But the guys who were backstage who put the segment over and who have messaged me or spoke to me on the night about how it came together and how happy they were with it, that's now another connection or another lasting impression. So if I'm back with AEW in the future, I might get a little bit more of something, or I might get the match in the ring or something like that. And it's just about building that,
Absolutely.
and hopefully leading to something more substantial.
And with AEW specifically, they're obviously in the UK several times a year. So for me, I look at it as on a different level too. It's like not just here and leaving that positive impression. It can get you on the radar for when they do come over here, because they do, or to your neck of the woods, not over here, excuse me, because I'm in the States, but over to the UK can get you that foot in the door. And that's the biggest step, is just to get in the
100%.
door and you're there.
Yeah.
And not only there, you've done stuff with the WWE, other stuff coming up that we can't really talk about. We won't talk about. I want to go over to chat real quick because Alice has a question. The proudest wrestling moment to date, what would that be for you? Alice.
Proudest wrestling moment to date. Tough one. So there's a couple of things from a personal, maybe personal satisfaction. I don't know what word this probably, but proudest moment being an extra at WWE, walking to the ring with Roman Reigns, being seen with Roman Reigns. There's a cool shot of I'm backstage. Paul Heyman and Roman arrive to the building. Then the security walking, and I'm the security guy. The way that the angle is shot, it's like Roman's looking at how jacked I am, and the screenshots of that people were sharing that. So it's like, that's a cool experience. And getting to stand ringside in a main event segment, that was very cool. But then in terms of like other bits that I've done, getting to wrestle Scotty 2 Hotty was like a massive moment for me. One, that's something that I watch with my younger sister. We would watch him on a Saturday. So SmackDown aired on a Saturday in the UK, on like Saturday morning. We would watch that. She would be laid down in the living room. I'd be jumping around doing the worm. We'd be like player wrestling and stuff like that when we were little kids. So then fast forward like 20 years or whatever it is, getting to wrestle Scotty 2 Hotty at North Wrestling, which was like my local promotion, a promotion that had invested a lot of trust in me, a lot of resources in me. The fact that they were able to trust me to wrestle against Scotty 2 Hotty, it was like, I don't take that for granted, because there's so many guys, more experienced guys than me on that roster that they could have put in with Scotty. But the fact that they were like, no, we're giving this match to Shreddy, it shows like the level of trust they had in me and the level of investment they'd put into like Shreddy and booking me and things like that. So that was a really cool experience. Again, similar with Paul London the year after. My return to North Wrestling after I'd been gone for about a year. So I wrestled Scotty 2 Hotty. I then had some time away from North. I went to Japan. I came back. It's a surprise. And the crowd reaction, like, even thinking about it now, I get goosebumps because it was like, it was such a shock for me, the reaction that I got from the crowd. And it wasn't just a pop and then it went down. It was a pop, a sustained pop, crowds chanting, my music finishes, I'm in the ring, the crowd is singing, the crowd are chanting, everything I'm doing, pop, then the continued. It was just like, that was very, to me, that was a lot of satisfaction in the sense of the work that I've put in with this audience over the years has left like such a big impression on people, and the kind of repaid, they were repaying that to me with that reaction that night. So that was really cool. Recently, I just had a match with Kenny Williams. So Kenny Williams was signed to NXT UK. He is, one of the big names in Scotland. The feedback I got from that match from Rampage, who was on the show, obviously my coach, the feedback I got from Rich Swift, one of my best mates. So Rich Swift is a referee. He also worked for NXT UK. The feedback that I got from him about how good the match was. The past couple of months, I have put so much time into wrestling. I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but what you asked earlier about what do you need to do to kind of get to where you want to be with the promotions and things like that. The back end of last year for me, wrestling died off. It was very, very quiet. I prioritized kind of the early part of the year and the mid part of the year. I prioritized bodybuilding over wrestling last year because I was competing. I had a bodybuilding show in Australia. And then I was planning on doing another bodybuilding show at the end of the year. And I decided not to compete. I wanted to focus on wrestling. But I'd left my calendar open because I didn't want the conflict with bodybuilding. And the last part of last year was just really, really quiet for me with wrestling. I didn't like it. It was probably the quietest I've ever been from November, December time. Coming into this year, going back to what you asked about, like, what you need to do, I'm doing a trip to America. I'm here now. I've got Japan next month. January was super busy. I have trained so much in this since the start of 2026. I have been doing weekly vlogs showing how many miles I'm traveling, how the different places I'm going to, just to get my name out there, just to get more ring time. So I had this match with Kenny Williams a few days ago. The other week just before I came, it was the last match I had, I think, before I came out to the States. And the feedback I got from that was so satisfying for me because it was like, right, the work I've put in just the past month, 6 weeks, is already massively displaying itself. So that was very good to know of, like, right, the hard work that I'm putting in is really kind of paying off here. Getting to go to Japan, getting to wrestle Daisuke Sekimoto in a singles match. Not everyone who goes and does a big Japan tour gets a singles match. They put me in a single. Sekimoto was the one guy I wanted to wrestle there. So getting to wrestle him was like, that was the dream match, if you like, for while I was in Japan. Getting to wrestle in Korakuen Hall was like a really proud moment for me because it's Korakuen Hall. There's so much history there within wrestling. So there's so many different things. Like, it would be hard to pick just one moment that is the proudest because I always beat myself up when it comes to wrestling because my dream as a kid was to wrestle for WWE. And because I'm not there, I sometimes think, oh, well, I've accomplished nothing in wrestling. But it's like a conversation like this where I'm actually thinking about, like, well, this was cool. Like, it's cool experiences and it's the hard work and the time that you put in and it's like the payoffs that you're getting from that. It's now I'm talking about, it's like, actually I've done a lot of cool things there. So I wouldn't be able to pick just one moment. It would be too difficult. But whether it was working with WWE, whether it was one of those matches that I just mentioned, the feedback that I've had from people, like, there's a lot of things that I can kind of look back on now that I'm speaking about it in conversation and be like, actually, that is something that, like, I can be proud of.
I think for me is I think we all lose sight of this every now and then, and it's the fact that we don't know how we touch people's lives. So, like, for
Yeah.
you, when you talk about, WWE and, you're not there, like, what have I done? What have I accomplished? What have I done? You've touched so many people, not just over in the UK, but in the world with your craft. You know what I mean? So,
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that because there's so many family shows that I do over in the UK where there's a kid. I say a kid, I don't know how old he is, but it's a guy with Down syndrome, and his mum brings him to all of the shows. He absolutely loves seeing me and everything. So no matter if I'm working heel, working face, when I see him in the crowd, I always give him a moment because I know from speaking to his mum how much, like, he loves coming to these shows. And there's other experience like that where it's like you will see some of these kids regularly coming to the shows. And I think it's like, yeah, you kind of lose sight a little bit of, because I just think of it as like, I'm just go wrestling on a local show. Like, I'm not special. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a guy that's wrestling on a local show. But I think some of these kids and even teenagers and even like young adults almost, especially like with the gym side of things, for me, like the amount of people that ask me of gym questions, training questions, and diet questions and things like that. I think, again, unless it's a conversation like this and it comes up, like, I don't realize how much I kind of do impact on people sometimes until it comes up in a conversation like this.
it's crazy. It really is because, like, and what makes me say that is when I talk to these companies, right? Like, obviously, we have a lot of
Yeah.
relationships with a lot of talent, but when we talk to companies that we are affiliated with and we have relationships with, like, I still have to, like, kind of pinch myself because we get credited for a lot that I don't, you know what I mean? It's not why we do this. We watch wrestling. We were watching wrestling before. We just turned cameras on. That's all we did.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's so crazy and it's so surreal. But, in your case, like, obviously being world traveled, there are, I hate to say it this way because this is going to sound crazy. there are millions of people that you have touched, whether they cheered you or whether they booed you, and that's so that says something. That's all about connection and creating a genuine
Yeah,
connection, and something that we've said on this channel. People can see through fake. That's why when I
yeah,
formatted these Beyond the Bells, I don't have lists of questions. I don't. I just think that I would rather be organic than a robot. And
yeah.
and and you can say this with wrestling, and you can say it with just about anything. You have a way of connecting, and that is invaluable, especially when you're looking at the world of professional wrestling and with how big that world is. It truly is amazing to see, and to see the opportunities that you're giving and you're getting yourself. Like, all this is work that you've done. No one else went out there and did it for you. You went out there and made this happen.
That is interesting. You said I agree with that to a certain extent, but this is something I always do try and put over. While what the fans see is an individual thing, they see Shreddy, they see me wrestling. What they don't see is all of the support from my peers and friends and close circle behind the scenes. So Alice, my girlfriend back home, the most supportive person that I've met when it comes to wrestling. Like, I'm out here in America. I went out in Japan for months at a time, and like, she knows how important this is to me. And this is my dream to be able to kind of make something of wrestling for my life. Super supportive, comes to all the shows, helps with merch, you name it, she's
Yeah.
like there supporting it. The coaching circle outside of that, so we mentioned earlier, like in the lockdown days, brainstorming, shooting ideas with people. Um, One of my best friends within wrestling, Benji, he's now a promoter. The amount of just bouncing ideas off him, Rich Swift, one of the referees I just mentioned earlier, bouncing ideas off him, getting their feedback from them. Rory Coyle, he was the one who introduced me to North. He helped produce and direct and give creative for so much of like the early. There's a lot of people who are now North fans and maybe only watched from like lockdown on, from after lockdown. Go back before that, and I was a babyface, and there was so many segments. They'll be on the YouTube channel somewhere on North, but there's so many old segments that it's the fans see me acting on screen, but they don't see all of the people that have pitched ideas and pitched suggestions to make that little video come to life. From a training aspect, like I say, I've got my coaches, I've got my mentors. Rampage Brown is one, Matty Jones is one of the coaches, John Moss is one of the coaches, Liam Slater from PPW is one of the coaches, Jack Selstrom, former NXT UK talent, he's one of those guys. Like, the list, and those are just guys that are coming off the top of my head. There's other guys along the way. I wrestled Big Demo years ago, former WWE star, doesn't need to give me time of day. After that, give me his contact information. Anything you ever need, reach out to me. I've done that. Met PJ Black, Justin Gabriel over in Qatar a number of years ago. Stayed in touch with him, being able to pick his brains. Simon Gotch, never met him in person. We just connected somehow over Instagram. I've spoken to him over the years. Again, offers advice, offers help with that. Dr. Redacted, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr.
Yep.
Redacted.
Absolutely.
Met him in Japan. He has been so helpful when it comes to making contact, putting me in touch with people. So last year when I did America for the first time, I was coming over for WrestleMania week. I just got my visa just in time. I was booked on Joey Janelle's Clusterfuck show. Literally my first show in America. There's a few guys there that I know, but there's a locker room. I think there was like 100 people in that Clusterfuck match. There's so many guys I don't know. I didn't know Brett, the promoter. Steve literally walked me up to the promoter and said, "I go and say hello to Brett. This is so and so, this and so." He made that experience for me feel so much better than if I just showed up by myself and I was just sat there not knowing anyone. So someone like him is being like so helpful. It's just these little things, and there'll be guys that I'm forgetting along the way.
Sure.
But there'll be other guys who have helped as well. But those are just things that like the fans don't see that. The fans just say, "All right, there's Shreddy. He's had a match. Oh yeah, great." Like, that they're entertained, but they don't see all of the team of people in the circle and the network that goes in behind the scenes. So that's something I always try and show appreciation for the team of people and the contact and the true friends that I've made in wrestling. I always do try and show that support because, yes, while wrestling is individual, I've got to go out, I've got to do the work. I'm the one on the plane, I'm the one doing the traveling, I'm the one in the ring. There's a big support team behind that does help bring everything together.
You got to have it. and that is a big piece. We've talked support systems in the past, and I can resonate with that one as well, because between the real world jobs 40 plus hours for me, because I'm a service manager in the real world, and then this job is not necessarily a job. It's fun, but it's another 40 hours. That's
Yeah,
80 hours of my week is gone.
yeah,
Thankfully, I have a
yeah.
loving husband. Oh, and by the way, we're not on to road trips 2.5 hours to Orlando to go to shows or call action or hop on flights like I've got to do later on this month to go and check out an affiliate and other all. Like it's there. It has to be there. And if I didn't have that, man, I don't know if this thing would still be a thing. So I love the fact that you do acknowledge the help that's gotten there along the way, because support is key and it is crucial. Because without it, man, it can go from mild to wild real quick, and
Yeah.
100%. I do want to ask you this as we start winding things down. I do apologize. I ran a little long, but this conversation has just been so good. It's hard to just find a spot to wrap into the last segment of the show here. But I want to ask you, and I told you before we came on the air, like there's only a handful of questions that I will ask everybody. And these, like for me, I think these are crucial and critical because it helps our platform grow. And especially being
Yeah.
able to pick your brain over this with your knowledge and experience, people that you've been in the ring with. I think this is going to be fucking valuable. The first question I want to ask, and I know WWE and AEW are all on the radars for you, contracts where your head is at, but in the process of getting there, where are some companies that maybe you haven't been able to work with that you would like to work with?
Good question. So one of them, Noah over in Japan, would love to work with those guys. TNA obviously is a big one that I'd like to work with, but I think you've got like WWE, TNA, they're all kind of in that same. I'd always put Noah in that bubble as well of like those are the companies that give contracts out. So obviously any of those companies I would like to work with, but maybe he's like more on the independent level. MLW is one that I'd really like to work with. I followed them for a number of years. I know Hammerstone was like one of their main guys. He's, the bodybuilder, super jack guy. I think it's kind of like how I was put onto MLW through Hammerstone and watching him there. So MLW is definitely one I would like to work for. I did work GCW last year, but being able to work with them, over the next couple of years while I got the visa, that would be another really cool experience for me. I've never wrestled for Rev Pro over in the UK. I've wrestled for Progress. I've wrestled for ICW. Rev Pro is kind of like one of the top companies there. So I'd really like to wrestle for Rev Pro. Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, this year I've been going to their shows, helping out and things like that, trying to get me foot in the door with those guys. You've also got over in Europe, WXW,
Yep.
which watch the space. There might be some announcements coming from there. There's another show over in Europe, APC, would like to wrestle for those guys. So those are just some of the ones that kind of, off the top of my head, those are some of the companies that I would really like to work for, especially now that I've got this visa. I am looking to travel a little bit more to the States, Europe, Japan, and so on. Those are some of the places that I would like to go to.
See, I never tell people who we have relationships with and who we don't, and I won't say it on the air, but I'll tell you when we get off the air. We got a couple of relationships that we'll be able to throw your way.
That's cool.
Again, this is why I love our platform. Is because you never know. On the backside of this, then you got some companies. Where are some talent that are out there that you just feel like you could have an incredible match with?
So I always have a go-to answer for this question, and my number one pick for this question is a guy called Mickey Long or Mickey Limerick. He sometimes goes by two names. He is, again, similar to like Rampage Brown in the sense of he's been around the business for 20-ish years. He is by far one of the best wrestlers, one of the best workers in the UK. He's taller than me. He's jacked. Not saying he looks as good as me, but he is jacked. He is such a good wrestler. And over in the UK, we've got like indie shows. Then we've got what you would call like camp shows or town hall shows. So your indie shows are the ones like, you know what an indie show is.
Mm-hmm.
Your camp show or your town hall shows, those are shows that outside of that arena, outside of that venue for the night, outside of that show for the night, no one knows it exists. But the draw, like they can draw 1,000 people. they can draw 1,000 paying fans in one night, which is bigger than most indie shows that will run. But there's no online presence to them, or there's no online buzz. It attracts families, so it's like mums and dads bringing the kids. Those mums and dads aren't then going on Twitter or Instagram and putting the wrestlers over. They're just sort of like, oh, they've been to watch a show for the night, they've been entertained, and then they leave. There's a holiday camp in the UK. I don't know if there's anything like this in the US, but there's a holiday camp in the UK called Butlins. Daniel Bryan has spoken about this. He said, well, I think it was only last year, he was on podcast saying the most fun he's ever had in wrestling was wrestling Butlins. And a little loop, there's 3 different holiday camps that they do. And a Butlins audience can be maybe up to 2,000 people in the crowd. But that's just families who are going to watch the night's entertainment. So one night there might be a singer on, one night there might be a play, one night there might be a children's entertainment, one night there might be wrestling. So they're not like quote unquote wrestling fans, they're just families looking for the night's entertainment. So Mickey wrestles like almost all of his work is from that. I actually saw something he put on social this morning. It was something about cage match might not show it, but I'm the busiest wrestler in the UK. Because he will wrestle like 200 matches, maybe not 200. He'll wrestle like 150 matches over the course of a year. But Cage Match doesn't report a lot of these holiday shows, and I don't know why, but they just don't. So for me, Mickey Long is someone that I've wrestled probably the most amount of times I've wrestled. I've had some of my best matches with him. Again, I've kind of put him in a similar kind of level to Rampage Brown. Mickey's never been with NXT. He's never been signed. But he's kind of been around for so long. He's been trained and coached by a similar kind of level of people. He's been around those kinds of guys. Mickey is one of those wrestlers who the other wrestlers and the other talents know how good he is, and they always put him over. But he just hasn't had that like kind of indie spotlight on him, and he's fine with that. You know, he's had tryouts before and stuff, and it's just like he's happy doing what he does now. But definitely, he's someone that I would always. That he's my go-to answer because he's the guy that I've wrestled the most. Outside of that, there's loads of talent up and down the UK. I'd probably struggle picking a single person because on the UK scene they're busy, but maybe on the like wider scale they're not busy. But I'll name just a couple of guys who kind of. You know, maybe aren't on some of the bigger shows, or maybe they don't wrestle abroad as much. So you've got one of my friends, Troy Ryan. He is someone that like works a lot of local shows. Really good guy. You got a guy called RPD. Used to be a boxer. He's a really good guy. You've got kind of like these are bigger names, so I'm not really doing them a favor because they're more popular than me. But maybe it's on the global scale, they're not like as big, if you like. But you've got TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo, Sunshine Machine. They work, you know, the big indie companies, but they're not necessarily, you know, like in America on indies and things like that. Trying to think of like other guys that would spring. You got Jack Selstrom. He's a guy that was in NXT UK. He gets brought in when WWE does tryouts. He is being brought in to help demonstrate technique for roles, footwork, and things like that. He is like one of those guys that just like super quality, super really like good worker. You've got Joel Redmond. So Joel Redmond, again, I put him in like the same level as Rampage Brown. He was signed to, I think, FCW. Then he was still there when they were NXT. He's back in the UK now, has been for a number of years. But he's similar to Mickey in the sense of he works a lot of the town shows, a lot of the town hall shows, the camp shows. One of the best wrestlers like in the world. He's done tours of Japan and things like that as well. But again, in that indie spotlight, there's no buzzing him there. The UK is literally full of so many good wrestlers that work on shows in front of thousands of people, but the indie world just doesn't know about them. And it's bizarre. It's absolutely insane.
It absolutely is, but that's why our platform exists, because we do explore and we do love looking into and going down those rabbit holes. And you mentioned TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo. Those are some good brothers of ours too. We've had TK on the show in the past, and we do a lot of sponsorships with Pro Wrestling Colossus that he's affiliated with, his training school. Out that way. So like, yeah, man, like I think the world of them. I consider Sunshine Machine one of the greatest tag teams, if not the greatest tag team on the independent scene right now. I really,
Yeah.
really love their work. Over in chat real quick, I'll ask this one. UK Paul, I think you mentioned WXW, and he goes to a lot of those shows, and he's seen Nathan Black on those shows. Obviously, Nathan Black is, I think he's attached with AEW now. Maybe that's not the wrong Nathan. Maybe I'm wrong Nathan. But have you wrestled Nathan Black before?
So Nathan Black is the founder owner of PPW, which is what it's the UK's or Europe's most popular training school. So Nathan owns the company. Liam Slater is like the head coach there, and the other like a few other guys coaching as well. Never wrestled Nathan. We've been on shows together in segments or spots where we've interacted. I think the last time we did that was at North. He did like a run-in. I was in a multi-man match. He did a run-in, pull someone's leg or something like that. I kind of hit a finish, 1, 2, 3. But yeah, Nathan, we've never wrestled on a show, but we have had some interactions. And yeah, Nathan, I see him when I go down to PPW and stuff like that as well. So yeah, another really good guy. The sort of PPW is doing. Most people know them from the reels and like the viral moves and spotlight and sequence and stuff like that. But yeah, that's cool. But in terms of like the actual coaching and wrestling, like Liam Slater is such a good coach. Some of like I did a session as well with Kid Lycos too, formerly Joe Nelson. Really, really good sessions. They get like important as well to do those sessions and stuff like that. And the work that PPW does for their regular trainees is really good because they get to put a spotlight on the talent that aren't at that big indie level. But so you mentioned other guys to look out for. There's a guy called Kemper. I'm really good mates with him. He has got to wrestle through PPW. He's got to wrestle in Mexico and in Italy because of the connections that PPW has made. Like they'll take guys over to wrestle from their promotion. PPW then brings guys in from these other promotions and things like that. So there's a lot of there's a lot of good work that PPW is doing for the scene over here.
Fantastic. So let me ask you this too. Now we've already touched on some of this. You may have already answered this too, and if you have, that's fine. One of my last questions that I like to ask is who should we be watching? And what I mean by that is, you're world traveled. You've been everywhere. There's a lot of hidden gems in professional wrestling, but who are some people that according to Shreddy, you'd put on our radar to watch?
So, yeah, I think it's just a repeat of the names I just mentioned. So definitely Mickey Long would be at the top of my list. Mickey Long's not a young guy. He's not, like an up-and-coming 20-year-old. He's a little bit older than me, but he's just got so much tenure. He's such a good wrestler. Definitely like someone like that. I'm trying to think of some of the younger talent outside of the names I've just mentioned. But, I mean, where I train, Rampage Training, there's a lot of guys there that get featured up north, but they don't necessarily work outside the Northeast. So there's a guy called Zeo Knox. Zeo Knox has been wrestling a little bit longer than me, I think. Really good worker, really good character. He's just never got, for whatever reason, had that moment to kind of break out. But I would say someone like him is definitely someone that people should watch. And anyone who's watched North will get to see his work, although they've seen his work on there, is Zeo Knox. I'm trying to think of like the names that I would probably come to mind is like people will probably already know, and it's the guys that I really respect as workers. So yeah, but I think just a retread of the names I've just mentioned would be guys to kind of look out for.
Well, Shreddy, I said that we were going to try and go for like an hour, a little longer. We've actually gone an hour and a half, and I do apologize for keeping you this long for sure. But I want to ask you this. This is the last question I've got for you, and it's not necessarily from me, but it is from a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours at Grapple Arcade, old Fox. When I did it, we do an alternate action figure podcast that I produced for him and several other people, and I wrapped up a show right before we jumped on this one, and I was like, man, guys, I gotta go. I got Shreddy's coming on, et cetera, et cetera. Brother brought up Pokemon. And you mentioned Pokemon earlier. You mentioned it once or twice, and I didn't jump on it. But I do want to jump on it now because he said you gotta ask him about Pokemon and his collection because apparently it is definitely something to behold.
Yeah, so I'm like a lifelong Pokemon fan. I was born in 1990, so when Pokemon released over in the UK, I was like 8 years old, so I was like kind of prime age pretty much for the Pokemania fads. Well, people thought it was a fad, but it stuck with us 20, 30 years later. This year's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon. It came out in 1996 in Japan. So yeah, when I was a kid, Pokemania, loved the games, loved the cartoon, collected the cards, collected the figures, merchandise, whatever. When I was a student at university, trying to make a little bit of extra money, I found my old Pokemon cards. I was like, oh, I might sell these. Instead of selling them, I started collecting again. And I was able to flip cards. I was able to buy and sell and grow my own collection. Fast forward to lockdown, fast forward to now. And that decision was a very smart decision financially to get back into Pokemon when I was at that age. So my collection is like, it's worth quite a bit of money. I've sold some bits and pieces over the years, but for me, Pokemon, it's all about the nostalgia. Like, very rarely will I engage with new cards or buy. Now and again, I'll get them, but for me, Pokemon is the collecting side of it and engaging with Pokemon. It's for the nostalgic reasons. And I'm actually doing a PhD. I mentioned the PhD earlier, so I'm actually doing a PhD in nostalgic marketing. And when I first applied to do that through the university, I was going to do it around Pokemon. I was going to do it around looking at Disney and how they use Star Wars for nostalgia. I was going to use Nintendo and I was going to use Pokemon and look at like how these companies use nostalgia to create lifelong fans and then generational fans. So lifelong fans, so kids like me growing up to be in the 30s or whatever, they then have kids of their own. They then get their kids in it, and there's like, multi-generational fans, same as Star Wars. It took a little bit of a different route in the PhD I'm now doing. It's nostalgic marketing, but purely in the world of wrestling. So I'm literally getting paid to write a PhD about wrestling. I'm getting paid to research about wrestling, which is like, if you told me this 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I'd be like, fuck off, that's not going to happen. But here we are. I'm getting paid to like my passions, my biggest hobbies in life. I'm getting, to monetize them and getting to like research and become like a serious academic within that. So nostalgia is a very big part of my lifestyle. I always say to people, like, my favorite franchises would be Star Wars and or Pokemon. Those are like the two things that I kind of love the most. In terms of the collecting side of things, by far Pokemon is the thing for me. I have an Instagram page dedicated to Pokemon. During lockdown, started creating Pokemon videos about Pokemon cards and nostalgia. Literally this year, January the 1st, I launched a new channel because I wanted to keep the Shreddy channel for like wrestling and bodybuilding stuff. I launched a new channel for YouTube for just the Pokemon stuff. So I've kind of downloaded all the old Pokemon videos, I've re-uploaded them on that channel. But yeah, if anybody is a fan of Pokemon, nostalgia, nerdy stuff, check me out. Instagram is Pokemon Card Classic. The YouTube, I've got the Shreddy YouTube channel where that's like the wrestling stuff and the bodybuilding stuff. But then the Pokemon channel is proper mint collectibles. I literally just launched that on January the 1st.
Well, I'm gonna go and be following those because that's the easiest way that you can show support. And it's free at that. So, with Pokemon being a thing, like, are you comfortable with saying what the prize collection or the prize piece of your collection is, or would you rather not? Like, I don't know. I'm not a big Pokemon guy, but I know that the
Yeah,
market
so I mean,
is fierce.
I've got stuff that is worth a lot of money, like in the thousands, but I don't, for me, when I got into Pokemon collecting, I always thought, oh, one day these cards will go up in value, but I never thought they'd go up to the extent they have now. And on YouTube, like, you create titles and thumbnails on you for the clickbait and stuff. Like, oh, I think I put a video up. I might have it in me uploads to publish live. Is this a 7-figure box collection or something like that? It's not. My collection isn't worth 7 figures. I'm not that rich, but there is like, there's some serious money in that collection. But that's not what got me collecting Pokemon in the first place. I started collecting Pokemon because as a kid I loved it, and then when I was in uni, I kind of got back into collecting, and I made a little bit of money on the side. I grew the collection, and then in terms of prices now, like I've got items that like an individual card will be worth in the thousands, but the prices are changing so often it's hard to kind of pinpoint. Like, okay, on this day, on this time, I'd have to go and do the research. So, okay, what's the value of that specific card now? But I've got some high end cards. Like I've got a first edition Shining Neo Charizard. That's probably my most expensive one. I've got a PSA 10 first edition base set Charizard. That's worth a bit of money. But yeah, for me, like the Pokemon stuff wasn't about the money. It was just it's that nostalgic thing. I loved it as a kid, and I just, for whatever reason, that and Star Wars are two things that have stuck with me for life. But there's so many franchises that I'm still fans of now, and it stemmed from being a fan of them as a kid. Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh, Power Rangers. These are all things like if I was at home, I'd have been doing this podcast in front of a backdrop of all of this nerdy stuff. And a lot of the franchises that I'm into now, it's the things, that I first got into as a child, and it's just stuck with me for life. A lot of people say, oh, you'll grow up. I remember my older brothers when I was a kid, I'll grow up with Power Rangers, then you'll grow up with Pokemon. And here I am as a 35-year-old man still buying Pokemon, still buying Power Rangers, buying Star Wars figures, and then going to the gym, getting super jacked and beating people up on a weekend wrestling.
Listen, I've got a guy who works for me at the real job, and he is right now. I mean, this has been going on for a year. He's just buying boxes and boxes and boxes of Pokemon cards. I'm telling you, brother has probably spent $4,000 in a year and he hasn't even opened a single one. He's like, I'm just
waiting. If you look at, there's loads of YouTubers who cover this, and I kind of engage in this content fairly regularly. The videos I've been watching recently are videos comparing the price increase or the value increase of sealed Pokemon product, like modern products, over the past number of years. Pokemon has massively outperformed the S&P 500s, silver, gold, real estate, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Pokemon has outperformed all of those as an investment option. This is not investment advice. I'm not telling people to go out there and buy Pokemon, but I kind of experienced it during lockdown of like how life-changing some of this money can be. So if you are looking for investments, Pokemon could be something that you could explore. More importantly though, if you're a fan of Pokemon, if you like collecting, you can have a lot of fun in the hobby and maybe make some money out of it.
Well, I'm glad that you stuck with it because like stuff like that grounds people, right? Like that, everybody has stuff that you're connected to that keeps you grounded, and that's just one of those things. Collecting seems to be right up your alley. And when I found that out today from Fox, I was like, I'm absolutely going to ask him about it because it's just another layer, right? Like, I mean, we all know wrestling, but there's the person behind the wrestler, and that's just a little glimpse into it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think a lot of people see the Jack Stack Daddy Shreddy character and they just think one dimension. Loads of people in wrestling, workers in wrestling, think I'm a personal trainer in real life, like at shoot job. I'm not. I think people just look at like, oh, he's a wrestler, or he's a bodybuilder, and they think that's your entire lifestyle, that's your entire persona. The gym is a big part of my lifestyle. Wrestling's a big part of my lifestyle. But outside of that, I run my own digital marketing business, lecture at universities. I'm studying for a PhD. Collect Pokemon cards, massive Star Wars fan. I love computer games. I just don't get as much time to play them as what I used to when I was younger because I've got such a busy lifestyle. I don't have the time to play games as much as what I would maybe like. But again, that's another aspect. So I think people just see like the Shreddy character and just think, oh, just big jacked up, muscle guy. But there's so much more to like Adam, the person behind the character. And, everyone has got those things and those hobbies. Like, I'm pretty sure it's Batista is a lunchbox collector. Mm-hmm. You would never look up Batista the way he looks, and like big movie star, one of the biggest names in wrestling of all time, super jacked up guy, former bodybuilder, collects lunchboxes. Everyone is an individual person. We've all got those different things that we all got our hobbies and things outside of what maybe people follow me on social media, follow me for maybe wrestling content or maybe some gym content. But outside of that, like there's so much more in my lifestyle that makes me as a person. A couple of years ago, I wasn't a pet person. I had 2 dogs when I was a kid, but I wasn't really a pet person. Alice convinced me, she'd grown me down for years and years and years. Oh, let's get some cats. 2022, I caved and was like, right, let's finally get some cats. And then we went from 0 cats to 2 cats. 9 months later, we went to another 3 cats. So we had 5 cats. About a year later, we went to 6 cats. A couple of months later, unfortunately, one of our cats, Kylo, I've got him on a promo picture. So there's loads of fans out there who've got a picture of Kylo. He passed away like massively unexpectedly, just out of the blue. Literally the worst grief I've ever had in my life. To this day now, me and Alice talk about him every day. We've got a little display for him in our living room. The cat massively impacted my life for the better. And then in December just gone, we got another cat. They're all named after Star Wars characters. So we got Vader and Obi as our first two. We then got Malik, Revan, and Kylo. Kylo's on the passed away. We then got Rey. And then December just gone, we got Solo. So again, that's something like a couple of years ago, I had no cats, but now having the cats in my life, it's massively changed me for a person. It's probably the biggest impact on my life that I've had being introduced to the cats, and it's just like that. I feel so much more fulfilled as a person by having those cats and being around tours like this when I went to Japan. And like now, yes, I miss Alice, but equally I miss the cats as well. Because the cats can't go on FaceTime me. The cats don't know where I am. The cats don't know why I'm not there, and I just have that like sense of like I feel guilty for not being there. But yeah, that's like another thing that people probably don't expect about me. But absolutely love them.
You say something about here's the thing. I'm a dog guy. I've got two here now. I'm a diehard dog guy. Have been a diehard dog guy. I'm going to show you something right now. I don't usually do this, but I will. When you talked about a memorial for your cat,
Yeah,
that is my first.
yeah,
That's my first dog. That's Tater Tot, and she passed away probably about 3 years ago. But she would always, and why I keep her right there is because when I started this platform, she would always lay right at my feet. And
yeah,
now it's just a way for me to see her every day. And
yeah.
she's
That's
with
awesome.
me. She's with us. And it's just one of those things, man. When you say that, I never know like how I'm going to connect with people when we do these shows. Like obviously we met last night. We had an opportunity to talk for a little bit and get to feel each other out a little bit before this show. But usually it's just kind of
Yeah,
like we come in cold, and I don't ever know how I will connect. And like connected on several different levels here. But when you talk about bringing the pets into the equation, man, I know how that feels. I know what the trauma and that goes along with it, because I say our pets are people, and those are our children.
100%,
And
100%. So me and Alice, we don't have kids. We never want kids. Just we don't want them. It just doesn't interest either of us. So I'm lucky that I found someone who shares that same thought with me. And Alice is like similar. When we got the cats, I didn't realize how much you could love an animal, if that makes sense. Alice had cats all of her life, so pets and stuff like that. But for me, it was like a new kind of bit of a new experience, especially being an adult getting like a cat for the first time. And when Kylo passed, it was genuinely like the worst grief, distress, whatever you want to call it, like the worst that I've ever had, to the point where I had to get counselling because I just couldn't like
it's traumatic.
compute what type of, yeah, that's it's trauma. That's exactly that. But this is something I didn't plan on talking about at all. But if anyone out there, man, woman, age is irrelevant. If you have any trauma, if you were upset, if you were distressed, if you have anything that's making you feel down in life, go and get some help for that. You don't need it. I went through that with my pet grief. And I was supporting me, I had friends supporting me, but actually going to a counsellor before that happened, I was the kind of person who was like, counselling, like that's bullshit, that's not going to help people, blah, blah, blah. For whatever reason, that was my perception on that. And then I felt like I needed that help. And for whatever reason, I went and got it, and it massively helped me compute things. It didn't make the sadness go away. It just made me cope with it a little bit better and put things into perspective. So it's not like one session is going to make you happy again, but it just helped me personally, help me process that. And just going through that process, no matter what troubles you've got in your life, things can always be fixed. And there's people out there that can help you, whether it is friends and family, whether it is like a professional counselor or whatever. If you're struggling with anything, I would, like seek that help, because there is help out there and you can get better and you can get on with your life.
I completely agree with that 100%. We are firm believers that I always say my DMs are always open. So if they're a CCP podcasting family member, which is what we call our fans of our channel, our followers, they know, I am a guy that will talk and we'll talk you through stuff. We've all gone through stuff that has made us who we are today. Everyone
Yeah.
goes through different things and can definitely be a support system. Like this is mental health is real, and health overall is real. And the fact that you did take that step, that's something that you had to do. Again, it's grief. Everybody handles shit
Yeah.
differently, and you only know what works for you. And at the end of the day, we echo Shreddy's sentiments there. If you're out there, if you're going through something, you're struggling, it could be anything, reach out. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
There will be somebody who will reach back and they will grab your
Yeah.
hand and help you get through whatever it is you're getting through. Shreddy,
Yeah. Yeah.
I already know now this is going to be a 2-part episode because we've
Yeah.
gone a little long today, and again I've had such a blast talking to you and just having this conversation. It's been so good and so just enlightening the whole way around. Is there anything that you would like to say to our audience? Anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to advertise? Throw out there. The floor is yours.
Thanks for that. So first of all, just thanks to anyone who was watching. If this is a two-parter, if you managed to make it all the way through the two parts, and thank you for that. Anyone who supported me on my journey in wrestling, bodybuilding, gym, whatever it is, like massive thank you. If there's new fans that have found me through CCP, then again, like, thank you for following, thank you for taking the time for that. So now I just probably want to finish off with I like where I am in my life now. I am chasing that dream, and that dream for me was like WWE. This is something that I preach to a lot of people because it's something I've undergone over the past few years myself. If there's anything in your life that you want to try and accomplish, and that, not everyone's dream is to be a wrestler or to be an actor or a sports person. People have different dreams, different goals, whatever that might be. If you're in a position though where what you're doing in your life isn't bringing you the fulfillment you want, but you want to try something, do it. The worst thing that will happen is you'll put some time and some energy into something that you love. You'll probably have a good time doing it. You'll make some, good friends. You'll have a good journey. You'll make some good experience. You'll enjoy what you're doing. You'll probably have a bit more happiness in your life because you're chasing something that you enjoy. The best thing that can happen is you achieve that dream. And that dream can be different for everyone. But if you have goals out there, and no matter how deluded or how silly they might seem, just go after them. Just do what makes you happy. That's what I'm trying to do with my life. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, I've had some really cool experiences along the way. So, yeah, that would be just like one last message I've got for everyone. And then you follow me. I'm most active on Instagram, Shreddy Breck Gym, I think it is. Shreddy Brick. I'm sure it's Shreddy Brick Gym. On Instagram. I've got me YouTube channel as well. I have a Twitter, but I'm not that active on Twitter. I think Twitter's pretty much dead now. But yeah, I think it's Shreddy Brick Gym on there as well. But yeah, if you want to follow me on my journey, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever it is, and just thank you everyone for taking the time out and for the support. And thank you for having me on the podcast today.
Oh, this has been my pleasure. I hopefully when we have conversations, usually I tell people they're surface scratchers, and I do it intentionally because I definitely want to build relationships and have you back down the line and have this door open and easily make some things happen as our platform grows, as you continue to grow. I mean, brother, you've been nothing but an absolute treat. And I'll tell you this before we get out of here, while you're still in Florida, anything comes up, anything that you need, if it's whatever, you know how to reach me, and I'm just a drive away, regardless of any situation that may come up, man. I got you while you're here. The easiest way.
I've got another show. I think CCW we were talking about the other day. So I don't know how far it is from you, but if we can connect again over the next couple of weeks while I'm still in America, let's do it.
I will absolutely try to do it. I think CCW is when I've got to go to San Antonio. I think I'm flying to Texas.
Oh, okay.
I'm flying to Texas on the 21st and back on the 22nd. But
I'm sure CCW is the 21st, yeah.
We will definitely line up some stuff to try and make some things happen, and I'm gonna reach out to a couple other people for you while you're here too, so we can get you as much ring time as possible. Guys, the easiest way that you can show your support is by sharing, and subscribing. It costs you nothing. In Shreddy's case, it's been on screen the entire show over on Instagram, Shreddy Breck Gym. He had it right correctly just a few minutes ago. I do not have the Pokemon stuff up. What is that again? If they want to follow the collector stuff that you've got going on.
Yeah, so Instagram, it's Pokemon Card Classic. There might be an underscore between each word, but Pokemon Card Classic on Instagram for the Pokemon and the collectible page. For the YouTube channel, it's Proper Mint Collectibles. Search that and it'll pop up in YouTube as well.
All of those will be linked down below, guys, in the video description on YouTube. So please head over and give Shreddy the support with the follow and with the subscribe on the YouTube channels, and keep up in touch with what he's got going on, because brother is all over the place and it's just really getting started. I couldn't be more happier to spend time with you today, Shreddy. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you joined us overall across all of our platforms, especially Miss Alice, we appreciate you jumping in and hanging out with us today. If you're over on Twitch, you're over on X, you're over on YouTube, we hope you guys enjoyed the show. And for my guest today, Mr. Shreddy, I am Chris Page, and we will see you next time.